5% of your employees cause 95% of your problems.
Oh, woe is me attitude. Self-pity is just rot.
Welcome to the show. Cannon and Claudia with you. On the surface, it looks like this episode is about employment law, but in reality, it is about so much more. It's about building a culture of accountability to support a high-performing team. And Claudia, we're excited to bring it to everybody. Claudia, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yeah, today we have Todd Stanton on the podcast. He's the founder and principal of Stanton Law, which is an employment law practice that has a suite of offerings tailored to business needs. Stanton is also now the best-selling author of the 95% Rule, 29 Employment Law Axioms for Owners, Execs, and HR. His book distills the 29 practical axioms that help leaders make faster and better decisions. You can check out the show notes to find his book there and grab your own copy.
So in a nutshell, Todd talks about how, and the premise of the book is 5% of your employees cause 95% of your problems. But as you'll hear in this episode, and we explore the book, by the way, it's got great axioms, but underneath it is just this wonderful concept that it's less about the law and more about the culture and the leadership you're providing. And it resonates so well with the 3 R's playbook that we use to help business owners build their personal wealth through their business. By making better decisions, better leadership, and ultimately doing the better funding model. Listen how Todd reimagines leadership of a professional services firm, in this case, a law firm. And secondly, listen to his insights on how to best use a business attorney to make your high-performing team perform its best. It's a great episode. We were inspired by it. Sit back and enjoy this episode with Todd Stanton. Well, Todd, excited to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us. I've been a big fan of how you've built your law firm and the law practice that you have, and just excited to highlight that in some of your book on the show. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Hope you're having a good day.
Absolutely. So, and picking up on just that theme, right? You run your law firm like a business, and I thought we'd just start with that. What does that mean? Because it's not typically what I hear from from the legal world. And why did you decide to build it that way?
Well, it is a common lament that they don't teach lawyers how to be business people, right? They don't teach us that in law school. And if I'm completely honest with you, Cannon, it's really a function more of laziness. I think I figured out pretty early on that I enjoyed other aspects of the law more than the research and the writing and the grind of it. And as I started pulling myself out of it and getting a broader perspective towards business development and seeing that it was a business at the end of the day, and it's got profit and loss metrics just like any other enterprise. And larger law firms get a lot of that benefit. They have non-lawyer management and leadership. Most smaller firms, though, are still lawyer-led by someone who's trying to practice as well as run the business. And so we've decided, as Stanton Law has grown to 17 lawyers now, that it's appropriate to be running it as a business to let the practitioners practice more effectively. And as I've found my highest and best use being more on the business development side and on the leadership side, I'd like to think, not as much the management side we can get into. It's been effective. So I think it does carry some credibility with other business owners who see that I have the same sort of bottom line concerns that they do in many respects.
Well, so do you think of yourself first and foremost as an entrepreneur and business owner, or as a legal expert?
Well, it'll surprise you none to there that I think of myself a lot, and so it depends on what mood I'm in at any given time. I don't think that I don't like announcing myself as a lawyer. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
If I tell somebody I'm an attorney, they immediately pigeonhole me into what their idea of an attorney is, which is, in my experience, is not typically favorable. Mm-hmm. And so if I do couch more of my identity in an entrepreneur or a founder or a business leader, that tends to level set a better line of communication than if I start off with that I'm a lawyer. I tend to think of myself more as a business person than as a lawyer, but I think that one of the phrases I like is that we give legally informed business advice. So I don't know that there's clear distinctions there, but I do know that the more I focus on business, the happier my clients are.
Well, that's a great insight, and I agree. I mean, it is a mindset, right? Like when I walk in and say, "Hey, I'm a financial advisor," people are like, "Well, I got 10 of those." But when I walk in, I'm a business owner and I understand the journey you're going through. That changes the conversation as it should, right? Because now, I mean, you're like you said, you understand the business owner mindset, business owner world. You think like a business owner. You're building a business, so you put the legal framework and the advice you give in that context. That certainly makes sense. So, just kind of rounding out that theme, this is a service business. Is it one that will ultimately, as you build it, live beyond you? Do you think in terms of, building a succession plan and all those things that we train owners to think about?
I, I, I certainly hope it does. Our firm's mission is to create sustainable and fulfilling lives, both for our employees and staff, all of our staff, and ultimately our clients, and certainly for me. Um, and so, to the extent that the business keeps fulfilling that purpose and keeps facilitating those sustainable and fulfilling lives for the people who want to carry it on, yeah, I mean, I think that that's great. I'm 52. Do I want to be doing this at 62? I probably so. Do I want to be doing it at 72? No way.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what that exit strategy exactly looks like for me at this point. But if I'm a good leader and I'm building an effective team at Stanton Law, um, they don't need me around. And that's been a conscious effort, particularly over the past year, for us to become more firm focused and less founder focused. That we are trying to empower people to make the decisions, to own the responsibility and move forward. That requires a lot of transparency. We need to explain the P&L. We need to explain how everybody's work fits into the different parts of the firm, so that they know we're pulling together and what ultimately we need to be aligned towards. I think that if I don't get out of the way as a founder and allow other people to move into the more responsibility, I think the good people leave. I think
Yeah.
people inherently want to have more responsibility and more authority and certainly more autonomy. If I'm sitting in a seat and making all the decisions, that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
my exit strategy probably has me um, pulling back more and more, but allowing only to allow other people to step into the breach.
Yeah, well, you're already right. You can't literally articulate what exit looks like. You're doing those things that the best founders do, which is taking themselves ultimately out of the business where they're allowing it to grow, they're allowing talent to shine and rise up, and they're not slowing down decision making. And they're working on the business, not in the business, right? And clearly everything you just said resonates with that. So it's just interesting to hear that journey, right? Putting you in that seat because I know you give great legal advice, but also running and building a business. So yeah, go ahead if you
Oh,
had
I was
something
just,
else.
that's exactly what we've been trying to do. And
Yeah,
I was a little late to that game. When I started Stanton Law in 2011, I didn't think that this is where we would end up.
yeah,
I had originally started it to run a solo legal practice, but as I followed the opportunities and what my skill sets and what uh, uh, my likes and dislikes were, it kind of ended up that we're at a spot where I'm responsible for leadership and business development, and other people could do the things that they enjoy. Jay Sheedy, I heard him say that my limitations are another person's purpose. And
yeah,
so where I don't have attention to detail, where I don't have uh, the the um, the grinded out mentality on a lot of things, other people do, and
yeah.
we can let them thrive in that environment while I do what I like.
Was there ever an aha moment, or was it more just a gradual process?
I guess it's a gradual. I mean,
I think
nothing.
it
I
is.
didn't get struck by lightning on with respect to this. I have
Yeah,
a very good friend named Spencer Freeman who has encouraged me to read more and more and more. And the more people I read and see that the thoughts that I have on leadership or you pick it. Somebody's thought about it before, and finding the affirmation in other big thinkers has helped me come to this.
yeah,
So I wouldn't say it's an epiphany; it's more of an evolution.
yeah. Well, and the last question on this front, but it's one in that business owner concept. I mean, ultimately, you build business to generate either do great service mission work or to build wealth. How do you think about financial freedom for yourself ultimately as related to the business?
I think a lot about this.
Yeah,
I don't. My mission or our mission at Stanton Law, as I mentioned, is to create fulfilling and sustainable lives. Excuse me. And that doesn't always mean having the most money in the bank, clearly. And I heard it said that wealth is really the freedom from hurry.
Yeah.
Right? I like being relaxed. I like living good days. Some days are going to be harder than others. But I certainly attend to things outside of the bottom line, outside of the net profit of the firm, to make sure that we're scratching as many itches as possible. And I don't think that's just achieved through a large balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, congrats. I mean, you've built a business and a law practice of it may have started as a solo intention and it's expanded to a broad, very capable team. I've met several of them, so congrats on building that.
Thanks.
Let's pivot to the book. I love the fact that you've written a book. I'm kind of exploring writing one myself. Your book called The 95% Rule, and to me, it's really a key to building a high performing team. The way I look at it. So let's spend a little time with that. First of all, why did you write it?
I was really motivated by a couple factors. One is a neighbor of mine and a pretty good friend. His name is Scott Miller. You can look him up. He's a business heavy hitter.
Yeah.
And he paid me some compliments that about how I see things, about how I articulate the issue that most people try to solve the wrong problem. And that's what Scott does in his business as well.
Mm-hmm.
Help people see the right problem to solve. And as he and I got to talking, and he continued to give me the confidence to share the perspective that I have, I was able to use some resources through a mastermind I'm in, Collective 54. You and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
And I found a good publisher. The results for other people who have tried this have been good. And it was an incredibly educational process, from learning how to organize the thoughts to how long it's going to take, to every time you think you're done, there's another revision and another chapter to write. It came about over the course of about a year, and that's about how long it took.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, your publisher, you mentioned, I think, Michelle Prince, Performance Publishing, right? She's a friend of the show. She's been on the podcast. So, it's fun to see such a small world and great work kind of circulating that way. I want to you've got 29 axioms in the book. I don't necessarily, what's interesting is whenever I look at the book, a different one speaks to me. Some of my favorites, when I first looked at it, failure to fire actually increases more problems. Good employees like rules and discipline, just practical advice, surprised people get angry and angry people sue, right? When you've now that the book's been out for maybe, I don't know, about 2 months or so, but you've been circulating even before that, have you gotten any additional insight into how the market's reacted, how people reacted, anything you've learned?
I think people most appreciate the clarity I bring to this, right? And the purpose of the axioms, it's 29 things, and there's probably more, and we could probably write volumes on this, of things that are true. And if we accept the things that are true and move on to the things that we're curious about or that we don't know about, well, then we can spend more time on that. One of my core principles is that everything is a trade-off. Thomas Sowell says there's no such thing as solutions, there's only trade-offs. And if we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else, right? And if we say no to something, we can say yes to something else. And so the 29 axioms, to me, are heuristics. They're designed to save time and effort. They're designed to limit our decision fatigue. And so if we accept these 29 things that are true, 5% of employees cause 95% of the problems, we can move on to something else, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the clarity that brings and a shift in perspective is what I've been most happy about with the reception. That for instance, once we recognize that this 5% of this minority of employees, not 5% of employees, are going to cause the most of our problems, once we figure out that we can get rid of them quietly and quickly and effectively, we can move on to the 95%. And I think that level of baseline clarity helps.
Hey there, it's Claudia, producer of Business Owner Tales from the Trenches. Just a quick break to say, if today's conversation is striking a chord, don't forget to visit canon-carr.com. You'll find key takeaways from this episode, deeper resources, and you can download Canon's 3Rs framework, a powerful tool for navigating the toughest moments in business. Again, that's canon-carr.com. Now back to the conversation.
And at first glance, you think, all right, this is legal advice. One reason I really wanted to have you on the program is underneath it, just consistent with your business philosophy and mindset, you make an important point, which is despite the title, employees are not the problem at the end of the day, or at least that's the way I interpret
Right.
it. All right. So if we agree, what is the problem?
I think it is I frame it in the book as a victim mentality and an entitlement mentality. But all of that boils down to me to be a lack of agency. I watch lots of people who let the world around them cause all of their angst, right? And they do really nothing to solve their own problem. They don't take responsibility for their own lot. And it is a lot easier to blame other people for where they are in any given circumstance. And I find myself doing it too. I don't live perfectly in this regard. But the sooner I start waking up that if I don't like something, I can change it, that I have agency to make good things easier, is a pretty profound point. And it's a refreshing point once you get to it. And I think that most people, that's not the right way to say it. Most people will find the way to create their agency. Others continue to be mired in that victim mentality. One of my jobs, I think, is to help people see that they have that freedom to go create what it is that they want. Most business owners have more autonomy and control than they think they do. They're a slave to a calendar or to their email or to their employees. Helping people see that is the way to go, in my opinion. And that enemy has to be this, oh, woe is me attitude. Self-pity is just rot.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's mindset, it's culture, right? I mean, I interpret it saying, like if you're the leadership team, you are building the culture and you are building those things that employees respond to, right? And so if there's a mindset of entitlement, that's a weakness in culture. If you're avoiding firing, like one of your axioms, don't avoid, right? Go ahead and make that decision and move on with it and do it the right way. If you're avoiding that decision as a leader, you are creating the problem, right? And if you're surprising people with bad news, you're creating the problem, right?
You're not only creating the problem, you are the problem.
There you
And
go. Right.
In AA, we have a saying that if I'm not the problem, there is no solution, right? I can only affect change through what I do, and then I have to get out of the results business. That'll come about.
Yeah.
And I think that too many even employers have a victim mentality sometimes. Like if my employees would just listen better, right? If they would just do what I'm asking them to do.
Right.
And I'm saying, well, somebody hired them, right?
Yeah.
Who did that? Right? Accept the responsibility for that part of it. And that's a blunt truth to deliver to somebody you're asking to write checks.
Oh, sure.
They don't like being told what to do, but
Yeah.
in many cases, that's what it is. And I think that that's probably one of my favorite axioms is that repeated employment law problems are management's fault, right?
Yeah.
If you're allowing this to go on, that's your fault. You've created the situation, not your employees. You've allowed it to go on.
Yeah. Which axiom number was that? Do you remember? Test of the author. And that's not to be a quiz.
That's number 8.
Number 8. All right.
Employment.
That wasn't to quiz you, but that was to like have people zero in on it if they're looking. I mean, yeah, I love that axiom, by the way, because I think it captures the spirit of what you're talking about. So, from this podcast is for business owners, and founders. So what are the core lessons they should take away from this book as they build a better business?
Let's start there. That you have the authority, you have the agency to build the business that you want. Once you decouple what you want to do from the way that most people have done it, and assuming that that's going to be right, lots of stuff opens up after that.
Right.
On the one hand, you need to be bold. And on the other hand, you need to understand the risks of the trade-offs that is going to attend being bold. And as a lawyer, when we're giving business advice, it is not for me to choose the direction that the business goes for the client's business. It's for me to provide the options and show the consequences of each of those decisions, right?
Yeah.
I say it repeatedly, I can't put you in employment law jail. If you don't want to pay overtime to somebody who is supposed to get overtime, I'm not turning you into the Department of Labor. I'm not gonna send an anonymous letter in Morgan and Morgan for the people and have a demand letter written. That's your choice as a business.
Yeah.
But you can't decide on how your wage payment practices are going to run until you understand what the consequences of failure to abide by your proper wage practices are.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's my job, is to educate on both sides of those pieces.
Yeah, and help make better decisions. Well, I love it. So let's pivot from the book then just to kind of the final segment I thought we'd explore, which is the legal advice, right, and how business owners should use it. And I think it's Axiom 6 that does say, unless your first instinct is not to call your lawyer, ignore your first instinct. So clearly, calling your business lawyer at the right time is a good decision. What's the wrong way for business owners to use legal advice, in your view, just your experience?
Uh, Well, first of all, let's start with that one. That getting an employment lawyer involved. I would say getting a lawyer involved earlier is better.
Mm-hmm.
Most lawyers are going to be able to solve problems a little more proactively than people give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And contrary to our reputation, we're not going to just churn files. There's other things that we'd like to do. So getting us involved early and trying to fix these issues before they become problems is great. If you don't hire the next person you have to fire, you never have to fire them. So getting us involved early would be the the major piece of advice to take away from that, right? You pay less on the front. Refresh me on what.
Well, so what's the way not to use a business attorney? Right? Where do you see those common mistakes where an owner's, like one of your axioms is, quick decisions, reactive decisions are bad decisions, right? Yeah. And you want to avoid that loop. So
bad decisions are made in a hurry. So the sooner you get us around the table and help think through this as a strategic partner, not just a tactical reactionary force. We're not a QRF all the time, although we can be. It's just more expensive.
What's a QRF, by the way?
Quick reaction force, right?
Okay.
Somebody who, when the mission goes bad, they send in the
cleaner
hitters to go rescue everybody. And we can do that, but that's not effective for anybody, in my opinion.
Right.
And I think that the other way that businesses misuse legal advice is to think that we can find the loopholes in things, right? If you're wanting to fire somebody because you think that they're too old, that's going to violate the Age Discrimination and Employment Act. I can't help you work around that. I can't make an employee a contractor just because you don't want to withhold their taxes. I can't keep you from paying overtime if the person's entitled to overtime. I can't help you not hire somebody because you think they're going to get pregnant. Right. I can't, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a magician when it comes to that stuff, but I can say, here's another way to look at these things. It comes up a lot with alcohol issues.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wants to fire somebody and I say, what's the problem? Why do we need to fire them? And they say they're an alcoholic. And I say, well, that might violate the Americans with Disabilities Act. If you fire them because they're alcoholic, why do you think they're an alcoholic? And he said, well, because he shows up for work drunk. And I say, well, then fire him for showing up to work drunk. You don't have to conclude that he's an alcoholic. So I think that too many people think that we can work around what they perceive as loopholes or work within loopholes. That's really not the way that it goes down for us.
Right. So, best way then to use a business attorney sounds like you're saying, have those conversations in advance when you're making a decision, as opposed to after you've made it and trying to get out of it.
Yeah, 100%. And I look, understanding the sort of ambivalence, if not pure antipathy towards the legal profession. If more businesses would have their lawyer, whether it's their corporate lawyer, their employment lawyer, one of their representatives sitting in on a strategic and leadership meeting, even just once a month.
Yeah.
Right. It is going to lend a different and better perspective to the other problems. Now, look, I'm an employment lawyer. I'm employment lawyer hammer. Everything looks like a nail to me. I'm always going to go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know enough, to borrow another cliche, that you can't let that legal tail wag the business dog. The business owner is going to make the decisions and take the risks that are necessary to take. But again, they have to know the consequences on both sides. And early in that process, if they get a perspective saying, slow down, slow your roll on this one particular initiative, maybe that ends up with a better decision later on.
Yeah. All right. Well, so as you build out the law firm, going back to kind of our first question, I mean, clearly that's your mindset. How do you bring on other lawyers onto your team who think the same way? How do you make sure they get those values?
That's a great question. Hopefully I do it well. Finding people who the way that I speak resonates with them, and when they mirror that sort of ownership mentality back, that's where I find the good fits for Stanton Law. And I think
Yeah.
that's an excellent example for other businesses too. Don't ignore the subjective, right? When there's a good connection, when you see a hypo, lean into them. Your gut is telling you they're a high potential employee for a reason. And that's what the biggest takeaway from the 95% rule is. Focus on the 95% of your employees who are doing a good job.
Right.
And what is in the best interest of the business and in their future. That's going to limit the attention and the resources you expend on the 5%.
Yeah, that's such a great point to end on, right? If you're spending all your time on solving all the 5% problems created, but those 5%, you're not optimizing your business, and handle those the right way. Get great employment legal advice to make sure it's squeezed to where maybe that 5%. I mean, truly, can you drive it to 0% and have 100% of high performing employees, and maybe that's the ideal state. But
you can get closer.
Yeah,
you can get closer.
Yeah. Well, you do a great job of just understanding the business world and the employment law world. And, congratulations on writing the book. Congratulations on building the firm you have. I love that intersection of how you think. So, really appreciate you being on the program, and great job. If people do want to learn more just about Stanton Law and get access to the book, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I would certainly appreciate them picking up and reading a copy of the book. If you can't tell, I love talking. I love having conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't have an unlimited amount of free time, but I'm happy to pick up the phone and have conversations with folks if they'd like to learn more about how I see things, and whether that's coaching or whether it's legal services or anything particular about the book. Reach out on the website, www.stantonlawllc.com. Schedule a consultation. Let's get to working.
That's great. All right. Well, Todd, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on just building a great law firm. And we look forward to exploring that world more between, the employment law and the business world. So thanks for being on the program.
You bet. Thanks, Cannon.